think there are a couple of different ways to look at acceptance. One aspect of acceptance is acknowledging and living in the reality of the moment. Byron Katie, whose first book is Loving What Is, encourages her clients to ask themselves 4 questions as a way of getting to that reality. The questions pertain to our belief systems, and particularly to belief that things should be a certain way. This holding on to beliefs about thinking that same things should be a certain way is a familiar one, right? We talk about grasping and the suffering that can cause in mindfulness all the time. Anyway, the questions are, is it true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? How do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? And who would you be without that thought? An example of how you might use the questions would be, my husband, he is such a slob. He should pick up his dirty clothes and put them in the hamper. I've reminded him over and over, and he just doesn't listen to me. I think you can see, once you get into those shoulds, you're really ratcheting up the potential for suffering. So, is it true? Are you absolutely sure it's true? Should he pick up his socks? Because if 10 years of reminders hasn't accomplished it, it certainly isn't reality to think it's going to happen anytime soon. Then how do you react when you have this thought? Probably with some kind of tension, anger, or suffering. And who wants that? And lastly, who would you be without that thought? There's the interesting question. The point is that acknowledging and accepting reality is the first step towards alleviating suffering and also to making change. Because acceptance isn't about being a doormat or letting people walk all over you. It's about honestly and compassionately accepting in the moment reality, which then can provide an opportunity for real change if you desire it. The second type of acceptance is self-acceptance. So loving and accepting yourself as you are. My go-to person for self-acceptance advice is Tara Brach, whose book Radical Acceptance teaches us how to let go of what she calls the trance of unworthiness, which keeps us enthralled in our beliefs that if we were just better, prettier, ate more healthily, whatever, that we would be more successful and happier and achieve everything we desire. Unfortunately, since we're all human, we're inevitably going to come up short on some of these aspirations. With radical acceptance, we can acknowledge our missteps and imperfections, which we all have, without fear or denial, while still being aware of our humanity and our innate capacity and right to be loved, to love and be loved. Tara actually quotes 7th century Zen master Sen-san, who states that true freedom is being without anxiety about imperfection. Can you imagine what that would feel like? You know, just as an aside, one of the things I often suggest when it seems to me that someone I know is being unduly critical and non-accepting of herself is, what would you say if a friend told you the same story about herself? And quite often there's this flash of awareness when we realize that we can accept the messiness and complexity of life when it involves our friends' lives and choices, but we're much more critical of our own. Again, this isn't a path to being some kind of a beige blob, I'm okay just the way I am, and I never need to change. It's not about that. It's looking at yourself with love and acceptance as you really are, which may then open the door for change if you desire it. Or, as Bob Sharple suggests, you may find you no longer have any need for the subtle aggression of self-improvement or the endless guilt of not doing enough. Maybe you can just learn to accept and love yourself for the lovable person you already are.